Good. All right, everybody, this is Cameron Parish Police Jury's morning agenda meeting, Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Michael?
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
All right, got Ms. Kim Monte here. No problem. South Cameron Hospital update discussion.
We got anybody from the hospital board's gonna be giving us any update, Ms. Mary, or Ms. Katie?
I was not notified by anybody that they were coming.
No legal representation or anything? Anybody from Tom's office is gonna talk on it?
Sorry.
I'm here. All right, so the foreign trade
Hold
zone
up.
is a secure area in the United States where manufacturers are allowed to bring, process, distribute, use imported goods with the subject of being free from duty. And the Cameron Parish Court is the administrator of FTZ 291. Today, we're asking the police jury to sign a letter of support for Commonwealth LNG to include with their application to the FTZ board to become part of the Cameron Parish Court's federal trade zone area. The parish and all of the taxing entities involved with the LNG have historically approved the letter of support. Both Cheniere and Venture Global are included in our FTZ currently. The only money the taxing entities in the parish would be giving up is the annual self-reported gas inventory tax. Any questions about FTZ? Okay, thanks for considering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mark.
Yeah, I saw Mr. Tom looked like he went to the restroom. I guess we can hold off on it for a second to see if we can give him time to get in here. I'll wait and see what he says if he comes in here. If you don't mind, Mr. President, if we can give him a little time.
Yes. Everybody reviewed the agenda.
I believe Tom's over at court, he had to file something this morning.
No, sir, I seen him walk in. He went
Just
towards the
now?
restroom.
Okay.
Maybe about a minute ago, 30 seconds ago.
There he is, Mark.
Yeah, on the hospital, Mr. Tom, you want to give us an update or on anything?
No, I don't have anything to say. I think the board has provided y'all a written update, so I don't have anything to add.
So no discussion, huh? Okay. Go ahead and read it, Katie, one by one if you don't mind, and we might have questions to ask. Maybe he wants to come in.
Okay. Architectural timelines on Lower Cameron Hospital Service District facilities are color-coded per facility as prepared by Hoffpower Studio Architecture, and they were received November 18th, 2024 during the regular meeting of the Lower Cameron Hospital Service District. The second attachment is going to be Lower Cameron Hospital Service District financials. They were presented and approved at the November 18th regular meeting of the hospital district. And then your third attachment is going to be your administrative update of South Cameron Memorial Hospital Clinic as of December 1st, as prepared by Jason Rochelle, Chief Strategy Officer of Lake Charles Memorial Health System. Items of note that are in this report are that the hospital district received an unqualified 2023 audit with no findings as prepared and presented by Coy T. Vincent, CPA, at the November 18th, 2024 regular meeting. The hospital district approved providing a letter in support of the Commonwealth LNG Foreign Trade Zone 291 usage-driven application. They also approved a solicitation of a minimum of 3 proposals, each to include specific costs to potentially conduct a feasibility study to determine the need for a hospital. Wendell Piper of HGA Grant Consultants continues to report progress with FEMA obligations of both temporary and permanent health facilities and contents on behalf of the hospital district. Following the initial October 3rd, 2024 call from Commonwealth LNG, a Kimmeridge portfolio company, they offered financial support to Lower Cameron Hospital Service District and the approval of accepting assistance. A press release was issued by Commonwealth LNG on November 1st. Ms. Stephanie, the chairman, distributed copies to each of you at the November 4th, 2024 meeting of the regular police jury meeting. Specific details of the nature of the financial assistance will be handled through legal counsel for both the hospital district and Commonwealth. The hospital district will consider legal advice and execution of official documents. Until official documents are approved and executed, no funding will be received. And finally, the next regular meeting of the hospital district is scheduled for Thursday, January 26th, 2025 at 4 p.m. at the Cameron Parish District Attorney's Office. At that meeting, the regular meeting dates will be approved and posted on the police jury website. And she wanted me to remind you, as always, she's available to answer any questions you may have. And if you just kind of scroll through, you can see all of the attachments that she referenced at the beginning of the report.
So I asked the ambulance district 1 and 2 to be here. Unfortunately, I guess the hospital board's not participating, or they got something to do, or something to that nature. But I asked for District 1 to be here, and also 2, if they want to come up. I got a couple questions for them. I wanted to get a lot of clear the air about the hospital and intentions and that. Look, we got the people calling me. They want to know why they're paying a hospital tax and nothing's done. Time and time again, on record, Mr. Barrett and Ms. Stephanie stated that we're going to have all these services. We were supposed to have this mobile unit last year in August. We had time and time again, we could have had something for the people. It's to the top point, it's time that we need to get the ball rolling. Well, that's fine, set me straight. It's on record. I don't know if you know that or not. You stated date.
Show us the record, and I'll show you the record where you decided to pull the plug on the hospital's deal where they'd have been operating by now in that health unit.
And what health unit in the back? The one that
Right there, that building, yes.
Yeah, we pulled the plug because we was told, even our administrator was under the impression that the hospital board was paying it, not the whole people of the tax. And then when we was done, I spoke with Ms. Stephanie on the phone.
Wait, let's stop that statement. Explain that statement again. You explain what to you?
I was told when I come in here that the hospital board was paying for the retrofit of the health unit. I think we was all told that.
The police jury was told when the police jury made the deal, the CEA, that the hospital board would pay for the additional cost of improvements to that building for what they would occupy. Because the police jury, it's your building, you were gonna pay to fix it. But any additional cost, because the hospital would be taking over some of that, would be paid by the hospital, whatever they had to accommodate or the increased cost.
I don't remember.
Would that not make sense?
Yeah, well, we looked into it because what was being told to us as new jurors and what the deal was changed somewhere along the line. Well, in looking into it, we had at the time, our engineer kind of look over the documents, and it was more retrofit for the hospital than the health unit. They was basically building it out to their needs, which we discussed, and I didn't do too
And-
much research on it.
And
but-
that cost would have been incurred by the hospital board.
Yeah. No, they wasn't. What was the cost? It was a couple thousand, like 5 or 6.
Well, that
But
was- that-
anyhow,
I'm not
regardless-
an engineer and architect, so I can't tell you what the cost would or wouldn't.
So
be. But
regardless-
the deal was whatever that cost would have been, the hospital would have paid for it.
Okay, so regardless, we pulled the plug on that deal because I think as jurors unanimously, we decided that was not the best fit for it because we wanted elevated.
I understand, and that's
But
all
at
on the
the
record.
same
but we made it
time-
clear that you're attacking Miss Stephanie and me.
No.
For what? No, you brought it out. That's why I stepped in. I heard my name. Tom Barrett said.
It's a fact.
So I'm
It's
up here
not
telling
attacking.
you that had you not made that decision, and you were the one leading that charge, it's your district, it's your decision. They're going to follow suit generally.
Did
You said no to that deal. So when you say, where's the mobile unit? Where's our health services? The health services are not here because you made a decision to tell the hospital board to start over. So they had to start over. They were not going to get a mobile unit because by the time they would have built or rebuilt the health unit, it wouldn't have been feasible to pay $450,000 for 2 or 3 months of mobile unit services. It wasn't a feasible decision back in December or the fall of 2023. But once you all made the decision that you weren't going to allow them to go into the health unit, they had to reevaluate their situation, which meant that they thought, okay, well, let's go forward with the mobile unit, which they did. Because the hospital, the physician's resident building wasn't going to be ready because, again, they had to start over. Architect has to redesign that building, has to be elevated, so forth and so on. So those services that are going to be in a physical building got pushed back. So because of that pushback, that's why they went ahead with the mobile unit.
Okay, so
So,
okay. So I'll address that as at the same time we killed that deal, we gave them a building that's elevated, ready to go with
you
power.
didn't give them anything. That's their building.
Mr. President, what was
That's-
our offer to them when we killed the deal? You remember?
Multi-purpose here.
Yeah, their position was, considering what y'all just did with that health unit, they would go to their building. Whether it's the health unit, whether it's the building that you offered or their building, it still would have required architect to redesign it, redo it, retool it, and when they were done with it, it wouldn't have been their building. And you'd have had a community center that now is set up for a doctor's office. What good does that do you? So they made the choice to take their own building and refurbish that building. So whichever building they choose wasn't going to save any time. Maybe the 2 or 3 weeks it's going to take to elevate it, but in the big scheme of things, what difference does that make?
Yeah.
So, all right, what's your next question?
So my next thing would be, before we even got elected, y'all was talking and giving dates for the mobile unit on record. So I don't think that's 100% truthful, but that doesn't matter neither here nor there. So I'll ask you a question. Because I got an email I sent you back on October 17th, I think. I still ain't got no response on them. Where are we at with the hospital board? Where are they at with the debt with Mr. Swallow?
I've answered that question and showed you the emails, and whoever was with you in that meeting, and that's my point, is we met for an hour to talk about that, showed you the emails.
Yeah, email with you and somebody that's employed by Bill Cassidy's office, if I remember right.
That's right. That's U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy's office, his chief of staff, who, your lobbyist, who is Mr. Picard Group, I call him the Picard Group, help us with somebody. They put us in touch with Bill Cassidy's office. Bill Cassidy's office puts us in touch with Medicare, which is the federal government, CMS, different, and so we get emails saying, you do not owe this debt. You didn't like that, didn't believe it, wasn't good enough for you, so we sent it to the hospital board sent it to their special counsel, the Gotcha Sand Law Firm, who followed up on all of your questions, everything else, and got the same results.
So what I'll say to that is, the people I represent keeps asking about the debt. I seen the email and it looked like it wasn't a professional email. It looked more like of a conversation between two colleagues. So,
What are you talking about?
well, what I'm talking about, I wouldn't call the permit department over here and ask if I owe the IRS money.
I'm not
But,
following.
but neither here nor there.
Mr. Daigle, I don't know what else I can do but ask the question of the entity that we allegedly, that the hospital owes, and that entity tells us we don't show a debt on our books, which was 25 years ago. And there'd be a lot of explanations of maybe why that is, but I don't care why it is. I've got emails from both of those agencies, the state and the Fed, saying we don't show a debt. What do you want me to do?
Just asking. So
Well, it's
the
like
next
the
thing
10th time
is,
you've asked me that same question. So what else do I have to do to answer that question for you?
well, I think a few of us probably got the same question that they would ask you too.
So what do y'all have questions of? Let's get it out.
On the
Get it
debt,
over with.
I think a few of us is curious because it affects.
Curious about what?
So,
The old
Tell I'm a
hospital,
little tired of this conversation, but let's
I
go.
want
Let's
the
finish.
old hospital numbers cleared, basically.
Yeah, that was the follow-up to his concern. So we did that. That's what the Gotcha Stand law firm did for us, is send all those numbers, tax ID numbers, so forth and so on, to make sure that
The
there
old
wasn't any.
hospital numbers cleared.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, okay, all right.
and just for the record, Mr. Tom, I did attend a meeting that I wasn't invited to. I got asked to tag along with two of the jurors. We had a nice conversation. Actually, my mind was put at ease in that bay, making sure, because my job as a juror ain't to tell the hospital board what to do or how to do it. It's not, and I'm not trying to do that. But it is, however, my job to make sure we don't build a building that we can't afford and function, which, from what I'm seeing, and maybe this board and maybe Ms. Kayla disagree, our funds don't show we can afford it in that. So I just wanted to make.
So what funds, what analysis do you have to show that we can or cannot afford a hospital?
I don't, I just.
Okay, you don't have. You're saying you have
What-
something that
what-
says we can't?
what
I
do
don't know
y'all
if we
have?
can or cannot. Again, we've had this conversation a number of times.
What-
We don't know the answer to that question.
What does the board have to show they can finance it?
Okay, let's make clear, there's two questions here. One, can it be built?
Yep.
Got a beeping. It can be built. FEMA insurance money will pay to build it. I don't see that as being the concern or the problem that the citizens and you or this board should be, or the hospital board should be concerned about. I don't vote, I just counsel. I give guidance. And I've said it before, whether the hospital gets built or not, Tom Barrett is indifferent. The DA's office has nothing to do with the hospital except provide general counsel and legal services. I've never used it.
How did the
Don't
deal
expect
get
I'll ever
started?
use it, so don't inject my wants or desires. It ain't about me. The people will decide. But at the end of the day, and we've had this conversation in private, and I've seen my words thrown back at me at Facebook and twisted about cash flow. Tom Barrett doesn't give a damn about the people of Cameron Parish, all he's worried about cash flow. Well, that's a misrepresentation, and that's coming from you. You're the one that had that
I don't think I
conversation.
stated it exactly like that.
You and I had that private conversation, and I had that thrown back at me. Here's the point. The people of Cameron Parish, well, South Cameron, and the whole parish, and the people who come here that may use that hospital, at the end of the day, if that hospital cannot pay for itself, then it shouldn't be built. Period. Whether it can or cannot, we do not know at this point in time. And I told you, next year, before the election, we'll hopefully have those numbers for the public to consider.
What I was told, if I remember correctly, that the hospital would not start spending money and building a hospital until two of the major things, the only thing I'm worried about, a benefit cost analysis, and to make sure the people pass the tax for the hospital. Because I had a conversation with Miss Stephanie and Miss Vicki Keith on a three-way conversation, which I'm not gonna go into too much detail about it, but it didn't sound like, in my opinion, she was too worried about any of those things, which she come in here and stated twice already that the hospital is a green light and a go.
Okay.
So we
Well,
can leave that in there unless there's
Go ahead.
something more you want to clear up on that.
That board, in theory, is in place to build operate a hospital. Otherwise, why have it? Okay?
Yep.
So their objective, and yes, their intentions are to fulfill that objective. But at the end of the day, they cannot pull the trigger on building a hospital unless two things, at least two things. One, the analysis, and the election. If election fails, then that the people have spoken. And at the end of the day, again, I don't even vote on that. But the people will make that decision come this fall. But I would like the people to know information, not your opinion, not my opinion, the opinion of someone else, data, which we've already asked Lake Charles Memorial to prepare the cost analysis. So there's two, the revenue and the expense of operating a hospital. We've asked Memorial, because they're in the business, provide us your estimate of what do you think it will cost to operate an ER and 10 beds. Before we had 25 beds, which why we built a 25-bed hospital, who made that decision? That's the question. But regardless, that hospital's gone. So what's going to cost for a 10-bed ER hospital in Creole to operate? They will provide that information to us, the best data. I don't know who else can provide it any better, except for maybe Stonebridge, which I've asked multiple times, which they've basically said, no, I'm not giving that information. And I got those emails. But also, what's the revenue? So this is the cost, whatever that cost may be. Then how do you pay for that cost? And this doesn't, I'm not measuring the cost and value of human lives. That cannot be measured in dollars. But for the sake of a business decision of whether you're going to have a hospital or not, you have to compare the revenues to the expenses. Then the revenues, again, we've had this conversation, and I've put the little circles in place and showed you all the different possible streams of revenues. And if those revenues cannot match the projected expenses, I don't know. Again, the board will have to make that decision. The people will make that decision when they vote for the tax this fall, and you and I don't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, I would love that.
All right, so what else?
I just want to clarify on record also that, you know, I know there's a lot of talk about Mark Daigle and how I take care of business. I'm a businessman. It's direct. This is clearly business. What I'll
Whoever's
say
talking
is,
about that, I don't care.
well, me neither, but what I'll say, because I represent the people, and I'll say this much. I think I sent numerous emails that has yet been responded, and the hospital board, with them, the legal counsel and the secretary, they had every opportunity to answer my little questions that may or may not, I'll be right, but at least I'll have information to relay to the people. When I don't get a question to answer on email, which as Mark Daigle, I wouldn't think you would respond to me on that level with the hospital. I understand that. But as the jury over 90, a police jury over 95% of the hospital district, I would think I would get a little bit of cooperation, kind of like what we talked about, because at the beginning, I wasn't getting cooperation and I ruffled a little feathers. And now I'm ruffling feathers again because we're back at the same, not cooperating.
At the end of the day, you don't ruffle my feathers. You ruffle my feathers, and then I have to repeat myself to you over and over again. I get a little tired of that because I'm busy. But regardless, what have I not told you or communicated to you that?
I got 6 questions that have everybody on it, and I'm
What's
asking
6
you them now.
questions?
I'm reading it off the email.
What's
I asked
did
the
it
first
say?
one
When?
about Joe
When?
Swallow.
Huh? I've told. Okay, Joe Swallow. We want me to
No, I don't
play
need
the
to
tape
repeat
back?
it. No,
Okay, so what else?
I got that one. Let me pull it back up real quick. I lost.
I got something, Mr. Tom. So, talking about the health unit, so with us coming in, you know, that was thrown at us, and we was told the police jury that the hospital would pay 100% of that, and then we found out that no, they're only going to pay for some minor changes to a certain part, some upgrades,
All right.
and I believe Miss Katie has that information.
And if that statement was made, that was a misstatement.
I just-
Why
make
would
that clear.
I don't know that the hospital
That's-
board can
no.
pay to improve your building. You can't take tax dollars from the hospital to repair your building that they don't get a benefit. So they were going to pay for the benefit. So that may have been a misstatement. But at some point, that was clarified because y'all started talking about the numbers. So whatever initially was said, if it was a misstatement about they would pay for the whole thing, that obviously is not accurate. Right. But that was clarified in the sense that we had multiple conversations about what was the increased cost. And y'all said, well, no, there's no way, it's got to be more than that. We had all that conversation. So ultimately, the decision of who was going to pay for what was determined or
And that's the reason that we didn't, because we chose not to
Well,
use the people's money without the building.
I've always said,
penalty,
that's y'all's
you know.
decision. No, but Mr. Daigle's
It wasn't.
criticism of there not being any services yet has to do with the decision y'all made. And again, that's y'all's decision. But there would be medical services right now in Cameron, South Cameron, had y'all allowed that to go forward. There was criticism of that decision or the circumstances of why we don't have this or that. The point is that it hasn't happened because of that decision. Y'all are entitled to make that decision. And again, I didn't care what y'all did.
Excuse me just a second. I'd like
Did
to
or not?
interrupt. Everything he said can be verified by the records kept at these meetings that we attended.
Yep.
The fact that we refused and changed the previous board's decision on the health unit, that's on record. Them having to go back and renegotiate the purchase of a vehicle, on record. So I'm having to follow with Mr. Tom on this. If we get to throwing rocks back and forth, doesn't matter. My point being is, we work for the people, and we've said time and time again, when that tax comes up, the people are gonna tell us what they want. That's who I work for. I work for the people. I mean, you work for the people.
Concerning that, you and I have had these conversations, and that's the same point, is at the end of the day, the people will decide that. But I pointed that out because Mr. Daigle started saying, what was the mobile unit? Why not this one? Is that,
I just wanted to make sure we
and at the time,
understand why we done what we
and we
done.
had that meeting, if you recall, this jury's, one of your primary decision not to go forward with repairing the health unit building was because of the potential of it reflooding before you got the elevation grant, which was pending. You didn't know if you're gonna get it or not. I understand now you've gotten it. But at that time, and then somebody asked me my personal opinion about that. And I said, I would fix it, repair it, which probably would increase your chances of getting the elevation grant. Go back and check the record, because I thought if you fixed it now, that would be an increase or additional reason why the federal government would give you money to elevate it, because now you've repaired it. But y'all made that decision, and at the end of the day, again, I don't care. It's your decision.
So,
So
Mr.
anyway.
Sonny, I'm glad you stated that about the record, and I'm glad Mr. Tom's pointing out that we rejected and refused this build out because, didn't y'all issue a variance for some building that FEMA was gonna pay 100% of for the hospital board?
FEMA was gonna pay 100% of this. Any changes that the hospital needed, like emergency
No,
access,
I'm
what have
talking about some temporary buildings on site. The police jury issued a variance to do so. The hospital board chose not to, which I wasn't gonna bring none of that up. If we'll throw rocks, I'm good at throwing
No,
rocks.
we're not throwing rocks. We're
And-
trying to explain to the
And
public your
also,
concerns. I'm gonna answer
you
your
keep
concerns.
stating, I'm talking, I'll let you talk when I'm done, if you don't mind, thank you. So, also, you stated that you're the reason why this deal went through at a bar on record.
Wait, what?
You said you was at a bar and you just so happened to meet somebody with Memorial and y'all sprung up a conversation,
I introduced Memorial to the board, hospital.
okay? So,
I-
it's on record,
You
and
want
there's
trans-
one thing
yeah,
I
well,
learned
so-
in the last few years.
So
I
why
don't say
do you
nothing
bring
that's
that?
not.
There you go. What's the point?
There is no point. I'm stating the facts, like Sonny said.
So what is the
Jackson-
significance of that point?
I
That I
disagree.
introduced Memorial to
The
the
point
hospital
is-
board. Otherwise, you wouldn't have an operator today.
This is the point. The point is, when I try to get information as a juror on this hospital, I get stonewalled by legal and the board. On all the other boards, Mr. Tom, me and you worked hand to hand together, no problem. Answered every email.
Daigle, I have answered your questions multiple times on this hospital board, the same thing over and over again. So
Okay.
what do you have that's unanswered? The only thing that I know of is this cost benefit analysis, which I told you, next year. Let's get the mobile unit, the physician's clinic up and running, and then we'll address the cost benefit analysis, cash flow, all that next year before and again, I want the public to have that information prior to the election. Also, I think, I wasn't at the board's meeting last week or last month. They approved Dr. Dupie going out and looking for some companies that could do the analysis, so you don't have to rely on the board. So they're working towards that analysis to get it.
Yep.
So anyway,
I got two more questions. One of them I'm gonna wait because I'll wait on one of them, but there's another one. What does, as a juror or a board member, how do we have to ask questions to gather information in a timely manner? What am I doing wrong to not receive that?
Right. So number one, as I suggested when you started this request to have this presentation today, is attend the meeting of the, or whatever board it is. If you've got concerns, questions, go to the board meeting. Because after the board meeting, all you're gonna get is the minutes. You don't, you know, but being at the meeting helps you, helps anyone understand and hear the conversation, because the conversation and discussion doesn't go into the minutes.
Yeah.
This conversation, it'll be in your archives, but it's not gonna be in your technical minutes. So one doesn't get a full understanding and appreciation of what the board is doing and why they're doing it. So being at the meeting, number one, is I think important if you're concerned about the decisions that are about to be made. I think, you know, and you and I, my position is I represent the whole parish. And where I can give guidance and counsel, I will do that. I don't take a backseat or hands-off approach to anything that where I see that my experience, my knowledge, my education, so forth and so on, can be helpful. Now, again, at the end of the day, I always tell boards, y'all are the policymakers. Y'all decide. I don't. But here's something to consider. That's it. So whatever the board may be. Now, this thing about the hospital board, I have tried to accommodate you by meeting with you on multiple occasions, returning your phone calls in a timely manner, answering your emails. Sometimes, you know, to type an explanation is too much. So I'll call you or agree to meet if it's appropriate. So at the end of the day, I don't know why you feel like.
I agree 100%.
You're not
Except
getting.
for the hospital, I ain't got nothing to this day. And I attended some meetings, and this is what I'll say, that way you can kind of understand. I send the emails asking information, because when I go to the meetings, in my personal opinion, I don't want to have to go over there and argue with Mr. Scott Trahan every time somebody, where you're entitled to go there and give your opinion or what you believe or want to see. That's the reason why they have the meetings. But almost every meeting I've been to, he'll jump up and start hollering in the corner. You know, I'm not going to go there and argue with him. I feel like it's best if I ask a board that's working basically below me in the chain of command to get X, Y, Z where it don't go out, and then I could better take the knowledge in, you know?
And I think that's appropriate as a police jury, if you can send an email to the board, and I would suggest copying all the board members when you do that and say, I'm concerned about A, B, or C. Would y'all please address that at the meeting? I can't make it because I've got something else, a commitment, but would y'all consider this?
You know, just
Or consider this, make a decision, and then let me know. I think you ought to do this. I mean, as a juror, I think you ought to give the board some direction if you feel like that's the direction they should go. That's your, or a juror's obligation as an elected official, is to represent the people and tell your boards what you think the people want.
And I'm sure you're very aware, Mr. Tom, because me and you worked hand in hand on quite a few boards in the area. It might be a little off subject of the hospital, but I don't direct the boards where to go. I firmly believe them people are there to do the job and to do what's right and best for the parish. The only place that I feel like we come in is to make sure they're functioning properly and doing the right thing. As far as how, when, what, and where, I don't care. That's their job. Just like it's legal, I don't care about legal. That's your job. So, and working with them other boards, I don't understand how you're not understanding that my frustration when it comes to gathering information about the hospital board. But I won't keep beating it up.
I don't understand your frustration because I feel like whether it's the board or so let's give it, for instance, you called my office a week or two ago and you want to know about that special meeting about that mobile unit, and within the hour you had the minutes. Is that fair?
Yes, on
Okay.
that topic.
So how is that not being responsive in time?
That's
to
one
your
email
request?
out of many.
Well, it's an example. Tell me, what
I hear
other
you.
than this October one you're just talking about with 6 questions, what other email do you have that's been
It's
not
October
responded?
16th. I got that email
All
on
right,
that.
I'll go back and look at the October 16th.
We can go back.
What
I
other
got some back
email?
in February.
Well, then send them to me. Let's see what they are.
Hey, let me speak up for a second. So what's the problem here is you have no relationship with the chairman of this board. And the chairman of this relationship with
Well-
this board don't want a relationship with you.
Well, this is the relationship.
He is not the legal counsel, and he does not speak for the chairman of this board. So what the problem in front of us needs to get fixed is the chairman of the board and the juror needs to work together. And if that can't happen,
That's a good point, Mr. Fuel. And I tell you, what I've done to accommodate Mr. Daigle's perception of his perception of the way things are. Julie Trahan works at my office. She's currently the secretary treasurer of the hospital board. She's resigning. I'm trying to remove my office as far, so that you can go directly to the board. So if you had an issue with your rec board, your water board, whatever, you would go directly to them. What's happened is you've got to go to my office through Julie to get information in the hospital. You're not gonna have to do that anymore. So you're gonna take Tom Barrett off the equation, and you're gonna go to whoever the board president or the secretary treasurer for that board. So you don't have this perception that somehow Tom Barrett is not responding
Well,
to you.
but a secretary doesn't need to be. It needs to be the chairman of the
It should be the chairman. You should be calling the chairman of the board. That's a chain of command.
In
That's
any
where you
other,
get your
in any
information.
other board, when I've sent them an email or call and ask them, they talk to me, they give me whatever information I want, openly, freely.
Hey, Mark.
Wait.
3.5 years, I have answered every call and email from you, and I want you to tell me when I didn't.
Yes, ma'am. Emails, no,
No, that's
not on emails, but we had some nice conversations. I appreciate your service to the board.
I do.
I hate that y'all made that decision, Miss Julie, I really
No,
do.
hey, we're doing it to try to accommodate you.
But this is what I'll say.
Your concern.
In the emails and talking, and I'm glad.
off the mic.
I'm glad you stated that about Miss Stephanie, because in the early months, I called all these board members. I spoke with Miss Stephanie. The issue is that all the other board members, all what they tell you is call Miss Stephanie, she does everything. They basically really don't know much. I don't agree with that. That's my opinion. Another thing on the mobile, this retro build out, I talked with her. It was a 3-way conversation with Miss Vicki Keith. In my opinion, she told me flat out, point blank, that she was just getting a feasibility on the building. But I told her that maybe a few juries had some questions about this building, and you know, some things transpired that they might want to, you know, schedule a meeting and talk about. She basically flat out told me, in my opinion, that she didn't need our help because she already sent it out to public bid law later to come find out, and we had to reject that and use you to guide us in that direction. But I'm not here for that. I'm here to make a note that as a juror over the hospital district, communication is key, and I'm not getting that with it.
So I think that's what needs to be. That needs to be the talk in the room right now. Okay. So I'm sure the chairman's going to watch this video. She's not here today, but this is what needs to happen. There needs to be unity there, and if there's not unity there, then we need Tom's advice to either unify or we need to change the chairman.
Yes, because look, Mr. Tom,
Can
I'm
I interrupt
sorry
you a second?
that.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know, we're crucifying somebody who's not here to defend himself. That's not fair. Now, the fact that we disagree with her, it's understandable. All conversations are gonna have two sides. We need to have this, not in this open public meeting and not to be throwing, you know, rocks at any individuals. We need to move forward in a positive way.
I agree, but unfortunately, when I don't get answered emails,
I
I do
understand.
the business
I'll
of the
say-
people.
I'll say-
They got answers, and they're here to watch, and that's where we should.
I'm saying in her defense, every time I call, she'll answer my questions. I attend the meeting that run professionally. I don't see any big rigmarole. I see a lot of disopinion. Some people want a hospital, some people don't want a hospital, and that's what the argument's all about. Again, I'm gonna say, in the spring, we're gonna have a vote, and the people are gonna tell us what they want.
It's gonna be in the fall, but, so the public doesn't get confused. With any, so here's just a generic observation. Like, boards, just like your board, I mean, so if somebody has a question for the police jury, and they call Mr. Nunez the president, and it's, you know, what's your opinion, what's your thoughts, what's happening? Mr. Nunez may be reluctant to answer that question because he doesn't know everybody's thoughts, opinions, you know, a decision hasn't been made. So sometimes it's a little difficult, and, you know, for Mr. Nunez to speak, he shouldn't speak on behalf of all of y'all, because y'all operate as a majority of, and that controls. So when you call a board president, now, when's your next meeting? Well, that's information, that's factual. Here's our next meeting, and here's a time and place. That should be answered. But what are you going, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Board President, what are you going to do about this or that? That may be difficult for someone to answer without the board's input. So that's why I say if there's a board that you have a concern issue, or you want to express your concerns or opinions about something, go to the meeting. Then all the board members, then there can be a discussion. Because one person, even if they're the president of the board or the chairman, cannot speak for the board. They can tell you what the board did, how they voted, what's gonna be on the agenda, but to give their opinion on something is inappropriate. Well, they can tell you their position, but they can't tell you the board's position. Because again, the board has to vote on what happens and make a decision. So, you know, sometimes it's just not as easy as they're not calling and telling me what I want to hear, because they cannot express it sometimes because it's a board decision.
Well, my thing, and I understand that, it ain't that I disagree or agree with any of them. I hear people out there on the street, Facebook, I get their opinion. Some of them might be 30% right, I hear all that. But the problem is, I'm not getting any response to answer to my people about the hospital. And then all what they say, if I do call, come to a meeting. Just like the jury asked the hospital board to come. On number 6 right here, she tells us to go to her meeting. I don't agree with that. I mean, we need to be transparent. It says it on the paperwork. But anyhow, I'll leave it, and I hope that the board will come maybe to the next meeting and come hash some things out, and maybe, Ms. Dinah?
Yes,
I'm sorry, Ms.
I just wanted to ask a question, and I don't know who to ask it to, but where do we stand with the mobile unit, or where do we stand with health care for the present, not necessarily 6 months down?
I would leave that up to probably the hospital board, because that would be their job duties.
Okay. Well,
You know, I wouldn't want to speak for them or misquote anything, because like I said before, I truly believe that's what the board's for.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
I can't speak to that.
okay, so nobody.
Sorry, Ms.
There was an
Okay.
update, it's public record, Katie can email you what was provided to the police jury from the architect, and it has a schedule of information, I think. I saw it, I didn't study it.
Well, we see a mobile unit, then we don't. Then we see a mobile unit, so the seniors are saying, is it there? Is it for us? Is it not for us?
Yeah,
We don't
It will
know.
be, it is, yes.
Okay, but I mean, I can't give.
I
them
can't
any
tell you
time.
when it's gonna be open. I
Last,
don't know if it says it on.
last that was said, it's in the shop, correct?
Is it
No,
back? I don't even know if
it's
it's-
Yeah,
there.
it's back. They had a
It's there.
window crack and some electronics issues, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw it this morning.
Yeah, so for instance, I was driving to work one Wednesday morning, and I noticed it was, so I turned around and went back. I sent a text to the board saying, hey, and they said it was like a mechanical issue, it'd be back by the end of the week. And then I was back, I mean, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
but I don't know that it's open for service yet.
So, Mr. President, and I appreciate your insight, Mr. Tom. You know, if y'all don't have any more questions, I just want to thank District 1 and 2 Ambulance for coming to give some insight. Sorry the board wasn't here and it went a different way, but I just want to respect y'all and thank y'all for taking y'all's time to come out today.
For sure. Thank y'all. Anything else? So, I got a green card here. Doc, you got. By the way, anybody, wanna approach the jury, please fill out a green card.
Judge, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to speak to you today as a hospital board member, but make it clear, I'm not speaking for the hospital board. I'm giving you my personal.
Talk into the mic, Doc.
Can you hear me, Lima Charlie, now? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm speaking as a hospital board member, but I'm not speaking for the board. Today I'm giving you my personal opinions and my personal beliefs. What I've heard this morning so far, and what I've seen by people that should be here that are not, you have a hospital board out of control. In fact, if I can give you the colloquial expression, you have a hospital board that's a loose cannon on the Cameron Parish Ship Estate. Now, as you realize, earlier this year there was opening on the board. Mr. Daigle nominated me, you gentlemen voted on me. And my first meeting was July 30. That meeting and ever since, I've had nothing but stonewalling, gaslighting, intimidation, chicanery. Subterfuge would be a good word to cover everything. Subterfuge would be a good word to cover everything. And in my opinion, it was orchestrated, a plan by the chairperson and the district attorney to negate me the best they can on that board, to neutralize my impact, and even try to get me off the board if they could. Now, apparently this board doesn't like being asked questions. And from day one, I started asking questions, some of the questions you people raised here today. The two big questions I've asked since July: how much is it going to cost to operate this hospital, and how are you going to pay for it? And what you heard now and what they told me back then are different things. And every meeting, just about every meeting, and emails sent out, I tried to track down an answer. And if I could, Mr. President, could I read my last email out on this topic? This was an email sent November 8th, and it was addressed to Attorney Barrett. The topic of this email is 6th request for information, gentlemen. The 6th request. It's the 6th request because the requests prior to that were never answered. 6th request. Attorney Barrett, this info request, again, refers to the memorial estimates for delivery of medical services to the board. Your comments and those of the chair on 30 July board meeting stated you had received the estimates months ago, and both of you apparently couldn't remember the amounts. Note the chair had forwarded my request to you in the past. The referred medical services implies both clinic and hospital numbers forwarded by Memorial. If I can explain that, Mr. President, what this states, and from that meeting in July, they had financial estimates from Memorial Hospital on how much it's going to cost to operate the facility. I haven't got an answer to date. This email, no matter what the attorney was telling you, he responds. This is one of many emails I've had no response to. This was the 8th. Now, that is unacceptable. I'm a board member. That document should be available to me from day one. It's been going on 6 months now. They've been eating it. They've been hiding it. This is not an accident. This is intentional subterfuge. This is sedition on the part of the chair and, in my opinion, the district attorney. It got so bad, and this is the kicker for your comment and examination, I end up filing a FOIA request. A FOIA request. Gentlemen, I'm a member of this board, this hospital board. I'm duly appointed by this hospital board. And a member had to send a FOIA request in for information and then get stoned on that too. The response to that, oh, it's going to take a month, et cetera, et cetera. I asked for a waiver, just as a side note, to show you what we're dealing with this board. I asked for a waiver on the expense. I'm a board member. I should see this document that was sometime given to them late 23 from Memorial Hospital in terms of the cost. I requested a waiver so I don't have to pay for any of the copies. What did I get in the reply? They gave me how much it's going to cost for copies if they get them. So overall, what you heard today, emails being answered, mine haven't been. I don't think Mr. Daigle's emails have been answered. So I'm not buying what the district attorney's saying, number one. Number two, when in this parish have we embarked on a multi-million-dollar build operation and what's going to be, if it comes to fruition, multi-million-dollar annual bill to pay for it? When have we embarked in this parish without doing due diligence? This hospital board has not done due diligence at this point. I asked them about it. They say they did. Show me the feasibility study. There isn't one. You won't see it. But when has this parish embarked on a multi-million-dollar project without having outside, independent experts telling us what needs to be done or not to be done? We put rocks in the water here off the beach, rocks. And we know how much money we have to spend. We know where the money's coming from. We got gazillion experts telling us what to do. So we need an independent third party hospital consulting firm feasibility study, both on the financials and the clinical. And I'm gonna come back and talk about the clinical with our two experts over here in the audience. Having Memorial give us a price, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. Memorial doesn't have any skin in this game. Memorial, it's like going to a car store and saying to the car salesman, hey, sell me a car. Yeah, this is what you need. No, we need an independent third-party hospital consulting firm, and there's many of them out there. Now, the attorney did say something that's accurate. This past police jury meeting, after it takes me 3 months to get the board to do this, they did empower me to seek out companies. We're getting 3 bids. We get 3 bids from independent consultants to see what they have to say about a hospital down here or not. And that may take up a year, believe it or not. That may take up to a year to get that information. And what I want on that information, not only the financials, which you folks understand, especially you businessmen, but we need a clinical assessment too. Because you know my position, I'm on record with you. We don't need a hospital here. We don't. We didn't have a hospital, it was an emergency room. And I know, I was on staff at the hospital. I know what an emergency room is. I worked as an emergency room physician for years. I worked in academic centers as an ER doc, general government hospitals as an ER doc, and civilian hospitals as an ER doc. So I speak with experience. And just as a side note, Mr. President, we have 2 experts back here. We have Byron Broussard and Rhonda Coleman. These are our pre-hospital emergency room services. These are 2 experts. And I'm not going to speak for them, but I hope you can have them up there and just ask them some questions. But just on a side note with dealing with them, they've submitted letters. I've submitted a letter to you earlier this year. The 3 of us, I'd say we have probably close to 80, 90 years of medical experience. Rhonda, you're only 26. I don't know how we do that number. But when 3 people submit letters to you saying a hospital is overkill, a hospital's not needed, these are 3 experts talking to you or trying to talk to this board, and they're deaf and dumb, like some other people we have on this giving us board information. When you have experts telling you don't need a hospital, and you have 6 amateurs who know nothing about how.
I don't want to cut in, Doc, but this is what I just want to give some insight on something you said. I agree on the feasibility study as a juror because that's my job. As a resident in this district, if we can afford a hospital, I want the people, I don't want to get it misconstrued, you know, if they could afford it, whether we need it or not, on the study, I'll disagree with you on that, but I'm okay to agree to disagree with you, Doc. But my thing is looking at it as a juror, what makes a house into a home, Doc?
You got to have an effectively staffed emergency room and effectively staffed hospital.
You got a big hospital, and you only got the staff for basically a ER clinic. Why are we? In my opinion, it would be a misuse of funds to spend all this money on a big hospital when you're only getting clinic services.
Exactly.
Why we don't do a clinic for the people, and let them? It'd be like the hospital. You go to this clinic, you from this parish, you don't pay nothing. Or do we want it to turn out like a veil? But
you raise an excellent point, Mr. Baker. And the issue, when it comes to talking about the medical issues, this is the most difficult for you folks to understand because it's really a very medically orientated process. And that's why I'm glad we have our pre-hospital emergency services here, folks. Louisiana Emergency Response Network, and not to get in the woods on this, I'm glad to have them talk about it. If you have a heart attack in this community, if you have what we call a STEMI, you call it a myocardial infarction. If you have it right here, right now, and we have a hospital here, like we did last time, they're probably not being taken here. The STEMI learn is going to tell them to where to go. The hospital board doesn't understand that. And that's a major factor. There's no orthopedic surgeon that we're going to have. There's no vascular surgeon we're going to have. There's no trauma surgeon we're going to have. There's certainly no cardiologist we're going to have. We're not going to have an operating room. We're not going to have an anesthesiologist. What the hell do you think they're going to take care of? Cuts and bruises and sprains. And I'd like these 2 experts to talk more about that and how they send people elsewhere. So I understand your point, but believe me, you don't want to pay top dollar for a clinic. And just, not to harp on this, but I will. At the past couple of meetings, when I brought up the fact that we have 3 medical experts in this community, and I raised the names of Byron Broussard and Rhonda Coleman, the disdain the chair has, I think, for educated input is represented by her response. She said, oh, they're just EMTs. I know you don't know the criteria, et cetera, but calling them EMTs, sort of like calling a Formula One race car a moped. These are professional experts. These are taking care of our people, and they're giving us great service. But that's what we're dealing with the board. I would say 3 things in conclusion, gentlemen. Number 1, I don't think another dime needs to be spent on any type of hospital costs we're running up now. Architectural designs, meetings, et cetera, et cetera. We need to have a moratorium on that until we have the feasibility study back. And then that feasibility study needs to be analyzed and assessed. And quite frankly, I'd like you folks to have an opinion on that, not this board. Number 2, my opinion's clear. You need to fire the chair. I think she needs to be exterminated in terms of being fired. I would say maybe offer her a chance to resign if you folks can come to that. But having to file a FOIA request, a sitting board member, and not still getting an answer, no, that is intentional dereliction of duty. That's not an accident, that's not an oversight. It's been going on for months. I think she needs to be terminated. In terms of the council, I gotta laugh with what Attorney Barrett said. He has crossed the Rubicon, in my opinion. That is to say, he has left the land of impartiality on this hospital board. Just hearing his comments here, those are not comments of an advisor. Those are comments, if you ask me, of an advocate or even a proponent. In my mind, that's not the role of legal counsel. So, gentlemen, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have, but thank you for your time.
I got one, Doc.
Yeah.
I got one, Doc, and it's only because it kind of went dark on me because I got a lengthy email, and I'm going to ask you, and maybe Mr. Tom, we'll give him a chance to speak, but maybe he can guide me legally because it might cross some legal threshold because I'd like you to waive your right versus executive session to maybe talk about an incident you was in. Would you?
Oh, yeah, please, yeah.
Would you waive your right to do it in the public? Or?
Yes, I waive the right. As I said earlier, I'm convinced that the chair and the district attorney conspired to try to neutralize me on the board. And it's my opinion, and this is my opinion, that the district attorney weaponized his office against me 3 times. The first time was 30 July, the first meeting. Quick background on that. I've been going to these meetings at the hospital board for months and months and months on end. July 30, I show up on the board as a board member. And what do I have behind me? A sheriff's deputy. Never has a sheriff's deputy been in that room. But from day one, they put a sheriff's deputy and sitting behind me in that room. In my opinion, that's intimidation. Why didn't they do it for the months before when I was not a board member? How many board meetings do you go to, gentlemen, where there's deputies in the room? Any? Well, there is with this hospital board starting July 30 with my presence. Act of intimidation, number 1. The second meeting in August, 2 things at that point. We went into the executive session, and obviously my hands are tied on what I can say about executive session. But let me just say this in general. I think your role as jurist and my role as a hospital board commissioner, I think we can do fact-finding on our own. We don't represent the jury, we don't represent the board, but we can make phone calls, we can do fact-finding, we can get added information, and we should be able to do that without the threat of criminal prosecution. That's a form of intimidation. And finally, a letter comes out of the district attorney's office about me, and that's the letter you're referring to, Mr. Daigle.
Yeah, and just for the record, being you waived your right, I'm not going to go into who sent it or exactly what it said, but I'm going to just state a few facts. Me and our HR department and Miss Katie, I had the liberty with sitting in on that because I put you on the board. Had you done what they said you did, Dr. Dookie, you would not be on this board. I'd have made sure to remove you, and I mean that. Unfortunately, in reviewing what the email said and what the voice recording said, to me was 2 different things. it went dark on me at some point. I don't know who, I think right now the police jury or the legal counsel knows who's supposed to address a board member if they get out of line. I don't know if we just turn them into ethics or who turns them in. I don't think, do we have a policy on that or know who, Ms. Katie? If you want to speak a little bit on it, just to put it in context.
Yeah, no, I really don't know, Mark. I mean, I think board members are appointed by the jury. If they're doing something that is perceived as unethical, then you would turn them in, file a complaint with the ethics board. But I don't think that the police jury staff can discipline board members.
Yeah.
They're just
So,
a resource to them.
I know it might be a weird thing, maybe it ain't come across, but you're a smart person, been there a long time, Miss Katie. In this incident that we listened to, who would be your go-to just to see, do you think we followed the right thing, to listen in on it to make sure? I mean, I heard them, I got the email, but the email and the recordings don't line up. And then once we reviewed it and got back with them, it was, well, it wasn't on the voice recording, it was after the meeting. I'm like, well, that's not what the email stated. So these are just things that I think we need to address to do better and be better moving forward. And, you know, it's just an ongoing issue, and it needs to be fixed. And I done tried to get with them over emails, done tried to talk and everything else. Unfortunately, this is what I got left to do. And unfortunately, I'm always the bad guy because I'm the one that will come in here in the public because I represent the people. I told the people that if they're a problem, I'll make sure to fix it or look into it. And I meant what I said. And, you know, moving forward, I'm not here to just throw somebody under the bus or rake them across the coals. I give everybody the opportunity to do it off the record. But unfortunately, when they don't, they leave me no choice.
Well, I do want to thank the three people involved with that, to you, Katie Armentora, and our HR person, Trudy Dewey. I think you did an admirable job in looking at it. But again, this is part of the conspiracy, I think, between the chair and the district attorney to try to negate me on the board. If I can just say in closing, gentlemen, that I'm going to say not the six of you, but the five of you. I think the problem we have here with this board is that you have the Old Boys Network still alive. What do I mean by that, if I may? Last police jury and the one before that, basically the Old Boys Network. We do what we want to do when we want to do it attitude. What you see, I think, on this board is remnants of that. Look who appointed them. Look who sits on this board. And what you have is the Old Boys Network. And it's their attitude that, the hell with you, they're going to do it. And I think the voters spoke last year. The voters got fed up with it, quite frankly. And we basically had you folks voted in as a fresh start. Unfortunately, we had one left over. But I think that's part of the problem you have. And I would bet on you if you could decide, for example, to vote to request that the chair voluntarily resigns.
Hey, Mr. President,
Hey,
let me
Mr. Dugan,
address this real quick.
Sonny a chance to.
If you ask questions at that board like you do right here, it's no wonder you don't get an answer. You don't throw more slurs setting up at that thing than a Democrat in Washington. I've never heard people talk like this. You don't want a hospital. You've said that publicly.
Correct.
I do not want a hospital, but you're on the hospital board. For what reason? What are you there for? All you do is antagonize. I mean, we wouldn't go back to this meeting where you're saying you've been invaded. Did you ask somebody outside to go outside and finish the conversation?
I always do, yes.
Mr. Sonny,
I can't
You
hear.
understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
Mr.
can't.
Sonny.
There's a
That's
deputy
the
there. Hold on a second.
yeah, but hold on.
I'm listening to you. You're going to listen to me. You understand where I'm coming from?
No.
I don't know how these people put up with this crap. Okay? I'm just, and you just want to throw your slur about the one that got left. There's a reason people are here. And they didn't get elected or unelected for the hospital. That's where you come in.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is, again, a leftover from the Old Boys Network. This is what you see. This is what you deal with. It's not surprising. You know, if you came here last year, let me give you one more analogy before I leave, sir, if I can. You came here last year. If you remember the Old Boys Network and you had the right last name, you came here, you asked for a variance for your business, you got the variance. On the other hand, with the past police jury, if you came here, if you weren't a member of the Old Boys Network, if your last name was, let's say, Daigle, well, when you came here to ask for a variance for your building, not only did you not get the variance, but you got a verbal assault from multiple jurists directed towards you.
Hey,
So that's the old business.
let's let you know, we voted for him to get a deal. It was voted down by the people you bragging on, okay? That's who, the ones that are gone now. That's the one who voted it down. And we voted for a business in Creole so that people could have a place to get milk and bread and wouldn't have to go all the way to Lake Charles to get anything. That's what we did. We do the best we can. And to be assaulted like you're assaulting me right now, I don't have to put up with that. And that's why there should be a deputy in this meeting today.
And Mr. Sonny, I think just because he's stating facts in the way you don't want to hear them, I don't think he's assaulting people. But I want to address your comment to Mr.
You didn't hear what he
Dookie.
said? Apparently you're paying attention, you're not listening? You didn't hear what he said?
They got the right
On
to
record.
speak free. They got the right to speak freely. Did he
Yes,
threaten you?
freely. And you know
Did he
what?
threaten you?
I also have that right.
That's right. But what I'll tell you is this. I spoke with a board member, and that board member told me that Dookie's not going to disrespect a lady that he told him he'd meet him outside in the parking lot. So if you're going to state something, you might want to get it in the right
Did
direction.
he not say he said that? Did he not say he said that? Did he not say he said that?
Gentlemen,
On record.
I have decreased hearing. When there's outside sounds in the room as there was, I can't hear. I gotta get outside, talk. I can't hear half the
Look,
time.
guys, this is the sole reason why we can't find a person to be on the board. This is the very reason quality people that we need to have on these boards aren't available for some odd reason. Wonder why? Because we argue like this. We need to rely on these boards for the parish. And I understand everybody has an opinion. You ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. Understand it. Let's move on with the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, you have our two experts here. If you want to consider asking some questions on pre-hospital, who's going to hospital and who's not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duke.
And one last thing. Sam, you're spot on. I agree with you 110%. However, y'all are not tasked with the boards that I'm tasked with. 99% of my boards do an excellent job. They relay information and everything. I'm not kicking the board nor their decisions. But when they can't relay the information on numerous occasions, there is a problem with that board member. If you had a board member in your area and they wouldn't relay information, I think you would address it. I address it, try to address it off the record.
Let's be clear, I'm not taking sides.
No, absolutely.
I'm not taking a side right now, I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah.
And that's it.
No, I totally appreciate it. I just wanted to state again,
I
I'm not.
appreciate every opinion you have, Mark, I listen to all of them, but let's move on with the
Yep,
agenda.
absolutely.
All right, everybody review the agenda. Any questions? Ms. Katie?
Just while you take time to review the agenda, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce the newest hire. A few months ago, you gave me authority to advertise to fill a vacant position. We conducted interviews, and our newest hire started last Monday. Her name is Miss Anita Ellis, and with her, she brings 25 plus years of experience from the city of Lake Charles, and we're glad she's with us.
Hi, it was nice to meet you all this morning.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
And just for the public's knowledge, she is the person that's gonna be tasked with trying to fulfill the duties that were left vacant when Wendy left us. So she's been working on all of the leases right now. She's also gonna start moving more into a role of helping assist with the risk management and the insurance. So that's what her main two objectives are for right now. As we move forward, we might look at maybe possibly getting her to be the one that collects the occupational taxes when we have to start doing that July 1st.
Mr. Tom, come
Yes,
on
sir.
up.
Thank you. I want to update y'all. I'll respect your request to move on because I had a lot to say. But police jury versus the Benoit, that was a case filed by our office on your behalf to enforce the park model deal. The guy, Benoit, had two of them, or at least two of them in Holly Beach. He's renting them out, so forth and so on. We had a trial. Brian Airby did a great job for y'all. We won at the trial level with Judge Richard. ruled in your favor, ordered him to pay a fine, an injunction, so he could not use those park model because they were a violation of your ordinance. They appealed. The Third Circuit agreed with us and your position. And so we have a meeting on Friday with the judge and Mr. Benoit and his counsel about enforcing that injunction and what is he going to do about those park models. The point being is that, and that's all public record, it's a report written by the Third Circuit affirming Judge Richard's decision, basically saying your ordinance with respect to how you enforce it relative to park models, what we refer to as park models, is accurate, correct, and you're doing the right thing according to your ordinances. So we won, and we will be enjoining him and making him remove those park models. What we do going forward with other park models will be a case-by-case basis, but technically they are in violation of your ordinance unless they're elevated. So, any questions?
Is it all of them or just a 400 square foot or less?
400 square foot, because it's on wheels, so it,
Yeah.
you use terms of park model. So your ordinance says a recreation vehicle, which a park model would technically fall under the generic. I think it's got a title. It's on wheels. It can be moved with the vehicle. The only thing is it's not less than 400 square feet. So if it's what we would call a park model and it's less than 400 square feet, then it would, I think, fit within your RV definition.
I know I got with Miss Robin and Mr. Randy about that one, and I also spoke with you about it. It's 400 square foot, but he has a porch, and it kind of throws it off.
They told us the porch was, well, FEMA said the porch is included.
Okay.
Whatever's on the chassis was so that was
Correct.
yes. So that was yeah. That was my last understanding.
Yeah, because I know I spoke with Randy and them. He had a bunch of stuff that was saying that the porch wasn't included as square footage. So we was
Well, FEMA says it is. There's our ordinance includes. It says some. My term. The tongue. So when you talk, and if we just said, hey, let's just consider what's under roof. At the end of the day, FEMA has said porch counts as your square footage. It didn't even get into the tongue and the horizontal furthest point being the tongue. So it really didn't matter as to getting that much detail. But FEMA confirmed it. Court of Appeals has affirmed that position. So just wanted to let y'all know.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that. That way I can relay back to the gentleman. I know he kind of been waiting. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Any questions? Katie? May?
On the agenda,
Yes, sir.
I got one, the 26 about cooperative endeavor agreement. What is that about? Michael, you know?
Yes, that's the $300,000 that Mr. Bourdock was able to help.
They already done?
No, this is the one that they're working on. We have to sign a CEA with them, and that's part of the steps to get it working.
Okay. Does that mean if it's a corporate endeavor, do we have to put up any money?
They're gonna send us the money, and then we're gonna turn around and utilize their in-house staff to complete the project.
Okay. That's all I got.
Mr. President, on number 11, I was just going to check with Miss Mary to see if we had any public comment on it, if she wanted to read it.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we've received numerous, public comments against abandoning these roads. We've received 6 of them. They are all included in your package that they are opposed to the abandonment of West Avenue. We received one from a resident of Rutherford Beach, Dr. Kevin Dookie. We received one from Miss Connie Crochet. They use this, she says, I'm a concerned neighbor. I hear they're trying to petition to close West Avenue Road to access the beach. This would be horrible. We have property right on 103 West Avenue and use this road every time we are in for the weekend. It's a perfect road to get the kids back and forth to the beach with us. we would have to travel to another beach road instead of walking. Please don't close this road, it would be so horrible to us, thank you. Dr. Dookie states, as a resident of Rutherford Beach, this section of road is only 350 feet from my front door. As such, I will represent to the jury that it's an excellent location and usefulness of this road. There are only 2 legal avenues to egress and ingress from the beach, Rutherford Beach. I can report to the jury the West Strip is very frequently utilized by beachgoers to enter and leave the beach. The Sheriff's Department utilizes this section to enter and exit the beach while on patrol. This section of the public road is sanded in and has been. As such, the sand is compacted to the point any vehicle can travel over the section without getting stuck. The actual road condition, there has never been required to perform maintenance from the parish. We received Ms. Newman Miller opposes the closure of the entrance of West Avenue onto Rutherford Beach. There are still too many obstacles along the beachfront to have safe passage, and many people are traveling this road. We would not like to close this because people would be traveling on the dunes to get to the beach. Allison Postan strongly opposes it. Closing the street would be a huge problem for beachgoers entering and exiting the beach on private property. It would also lead to ditch drainage issues and more beach erosion. We received nothing in favor of it, only opposing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Mr. Shane,
Yes, sir.
got any comments on that road? Sorry, I hadn't been there in quite a while, so.
We was asked to put it on there, we did. We got on with that. We did with the public access.
Yeah, they had one landowner adjacent to the road, and he's not taking in account that people utilize the road and cut across his property, and he just asked us to put it on the agenda. I done my due diligence to do so, and as I always will if somebody asks for something. So I appreciate you reading them, Ms. Mayor.
No problem.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Sutton?
I'd like to just address the staff and the people that are in attendance. I apologize if we were unprofessional earlier today. I just got my redneck bone bumped, and sorry about that. Try not to let it happen again. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's what I was thinking.
It only gets better. Don't go.
Not all like this.
Anything there, Mr. Johnny, Mr. Sam?
Good, thank you.
I just want to say I'm sorry for ruffling feathers or stepping on toes, but I represent the people, and as I'm gonna continue to say, we just need to collaborate to stop this from further happening. So I'm sorry, and it is what it is.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sonny, second by Mr. Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.